What if I told you the story you're about to hear has been heard by only 23 people, and 7 of them never slept the same again? This isn't just another creepy tale. This is the kind of horror that lingers in your dreams. Ready to find out why? Ever heard a house breathe? The first time Sarah did, she thought it was the wind. She'd just moved into an old Victorian home, the kind with creaky floors and high ceilings. At night, she noticed odd drafts moving through the halls, carrying faint whispers she couldn't quite make out. The first week, she wrote it off as the settling of an old house. But by the second week, the whispers grew clear. They repeated her name, always just as she was drifting off to sleep. Sarah started recording audio at night, hoping to catch the sounds. What she captured wasn't just drafts or pipes, it was voices. Soft, rhythmic, saying her name in tones that didn't match any language she knew. She played the recordings for a friend who studied linguistics, and they confirmed it. The patterns didn't line up with any known human speech. The house had a history too. A fire decades ago had trapped 7 people in their beds, all of whom never woke up. Sleep experts say subtle sounds can disrupt deep sleep cycles more than loud, sudden noises. The brain stays alert, trying to process something just out of reach. Sarah's experience fit that perfectly. Her sleep became fractured, the whispers pulling her back from the edge of rest. Then she tried something unusual. One night, she answered them. The whispers stopped immediately, but that's when the dreams started. The same voices, now clearer, now forming words she still couldn't understand. Research shows certain architectural quirks can create acoustic illusions. Whistling vents, narrow hallways, even specific angles of walls can twist sound into something eerily human. But Sarah's recordings didn't match those phenomena. The voices had a cadence, a purpose, and when she acknowledged them, they didn't vanish. They shifted, following her into sleep. Horror works for sleep in a strange way. It takes real-world fears, the creak in the dark, the unseen watcher, and locks them into a story. Controlled, contained. The whispers in Sarah's house became a puzzle, not a threat. Her brain could file them away, knowing they belonged to the walls, not her waking life. That's why some sounds trigger primal fear responses. They slip past logic, speaking directly to the part of us that still listens for danger in the night. The next thing you should know, why certain sounds like distant humming or whispering make your skin crawl before you're even fully awake. It's not just about what you hear, but what your brain expects to hear next. A lullaby shouldn't have lyrics you've never heard before. Imagine a nurse in a 1920s asylum humming to patients at night. The tune was simple, soothing, something to help them drift off. But patients started reporting strange things. They'd hear new verses in their sleep, verses they'd never heard before. What made it worse? Those new verses predicted deaths. A patient would hear a line about the third bell tolling, and the next day, someone on the 3rd floor would pass away. The melody matched an old folk song about drowning children. That alone would be unsettling, but the real twist was in the science behind it. Repetitive sounds help entrain the brain to sleep. They create a rhythm that lulls you into rest. But when the pattern changes unexpectedly, it triggers the amygdala, the part of your brain that processes fear. Those unfamiliar verses didn't just wake patients up. They left them in a state of lingering dread. Someone managed to record the lullaby years later. Analysis showed something even stranger. There were infrasound frequencies under 20 hertz, too low for the human ear to consciously hear. These frequencies can cause feelings of unease, even panic. The nurse's journal explained why she used it. She believes sleep returns souls to their rightful owners. Whether she meant it metaphorically or literally, no one knows. But the patients who heard those new verses never forgot them. Here's the odd part. Familiar horror, when structured like a ritual, can actually help you sleep. The predictability of a scary story or a dark lullaby lets your brain categorize it as fiction. It's when the pattern breaks, when the unknown creeps in, that fear takes hold. That's why so many sleep aids use repetitive sounds. White noise, rain, even a fan's hum work because they're consistent. The brain knows what's coming next, but introduce a whisper where there shouldn't be one, or a verse that wasn't there before, and suddenly you're wide awake. Darkness plays a role here too. When you can't see, your hearing becomes sharper. Every sound gets amplified, every shift in tone more noticeable. That's why hearing a lullaby in the dark feels different than hearing it in daylight. The absence of visual cues makes the auditory ones stronger. Next, let's talk about why certain shadows seem to move when you're half asleep, and why your brain insists they're real. You've felt it, waking to a weight pressing your chest. Your eyes open, but your body won't move. At the foot of the bed, a shadow stands. It's not just darkness, it has shape, presence. You try to scream, but no sound comes out. This is sleep paralysis, and it's more common than you might think. Studies show 23% of people experience this exact scenario at least once in their lives. The shadow figure appears so consistently across cultures that researchers have a name for it: the night hag. Medieval texts describe the night hag as a spirit that sits on sleepers' chests, stealing their breath. The descriptions haven't changed much in centuries. People still report the same figure, tall, featureless, looming near the bed. Modern science explains part of it. During sleep paralysis, your brain wakes up before your body does. You're caught between dreaming and waking, and your amygdala, the fear center, lights up like a warning signal. That's why the shadow feels so real. Your brain is primed to see threats, even when there aren't any. But here's the strange part. Some people learn to lean into it. Instead of fighting the fear, they accept the shadow's presence. One study found that subjects who did this fell back asleep 62% faster than those who panicked. Their brains stopped treating the figure as a threat and filed it away as a dream. One man even drew the face of his shadow after an episode. Later, he found a portrait in his attic that matched it perfectly. Was it coincidence? A trick of memory? Or something else? The key is control. When you confront the shadow, you take back authority over the experience. Your brain realizes it's not real danger, just a glitch in the system. That's why horror stories before bed can help. They give your brain a safe way to practice fear. You know the threat isn't real, so your amygdala doesn't go into overdrive. Instead, it processes the fear and lets it go. This ties back to why some people crave scary stories at night. Your brain wants to work through fear, not ignore it. The shadow at the foot of the bed is just one example. When you understand it, it loses its power. That's why the next step is understanding why your brain seeks out horror when you're trying to sleep. It's not about torture, it's about resolution. Your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain, shuts down first when you fall asleep. That's why dreams often feel so disjointed. The rules of reality don't apply. But it's also why scary stories work so well before bed. Without logic getting in the way, your brain can process emotions freely. EEG studies show horror increases theta waves right before sleep. These waves help with memory consolidation, sorting through the day's experiences. Children's fear of monsters under the bed never really goes away. It just changes shape. Adults might not believe in literal monsters, but the same primal fear lingers. Horror stories tap into that. They let you face the fear in a controlled way. Subjects in sleep studies fell asleep 12 minutes faster when listening to horror compared to romance. The brain likes having a clear threat to resolve. Campfire stories evolved for a reason. They let people practice fear in a safe space. The shadow at the foot of the bed is just another version of that. It's a story your brain tells itself, one you can learn to rewrite. When you stop fighting it, the fear fades. The same goes for horror stories. They're not keeping you awake, they're helping you sleep. Some sounds lull you to sleep, others jolt you awake. The difference isn't just volume or tone, it's about expectation. Your brain listens for patterns. When they break, fear kicks in. The next section explains why certain voices, even quiet ones, can hijack your attention right as you're about to drift off. The whispers in Sarah's house were fine until they said her name. The shadow is only scary until you recognize it. Your brain wants to.